Welcome to Pocket Fiction by Steve Cook. Poisonroot, Prologue. The clouds above were brown, like old blood. Plumes of smoke curled up from burning buildings, sparks flickering and rising on waves of intense heat to burn out against the angry sky. The ground was littered with bodies, some burned beyond recognition, others covered in blood. Anila coughed, her throat raw from the smoke. She wriggled, but something was stuck. Scrabbling up onto her elbows, she saw that she was pinned under a ceiling beam. Lucky, she thought. Could have just crushed me. Sweat poured from her as she wriggled, but it was no use. Fighting down panic, she tried to take a breath. "Help!" she called out faintly, then grimaced. Too weak. She steeled herself and called out again, riding out the hacking coughs that followed. Over the crackling flames and a strange ringing noise in her ears, Anila thought she caught an echo of someone calling back. She tried to take another deep breath that ended in more coughing, but it was enough. "Are you stuck?" She looked desperately up into the wrinkled eyes of Elder Jiram. His robes were more black than green now, as he knelt next to her and began to push at the debris covering her. "Rootholm is being attacked," she blurted, staring past him, around him. "I know. Listen to my voice, Anila," he said calmly. She nodded, coughed and moistened her lips, trying to focus amidst the chaos. "I can hear you. I think I can get my hands underneath." The girl scrabbled around in the ash, wriggling around for purchase. Then her palms were on the beam, pinning her in place. She took a shallow breath and pushed with all her might. Elder Jiram set his feet firmly and pulled. The enormous wooden beam crashed off onto the floor, and she was free. She sat up, and instantly regretted it as dizziness rolled over her. Dazed, she staggered to her feet. "Come on," she said, but the elder was no longer by her side. He was on his hands and knees, and suddenly the smoke seemed to thicken and take on a life of its own. Anila knelt and put the elder's arm over her shoulder. She heaved him to his feet, and, together, they stumbled through the blaze. When they finally burst into the cool night air, it was almost painful. Her first breath was like a knife in her chest. But it was good to breathe, good to live. Helpful hands took Elder Jiram from her and guided her to a bench. Anila raised her sweaty and soot-streaked face to the burning monastery, her home for 15 years, and watched as the fire consumed everything she had known. Slowly she became aware that people were talking around her, and then she picked out a voice she knew well. "It was intentional." Any relief that coursed through her at her father's words were dulled by the import of what he said. "It seems so. A single fire begun in the Arboretum. It spread from there." The other speaker was one of her father's assistants. Anila bent her head and listened more closely. "Gargorians attack us here? Attack Rootholm?" "High Father, there's no evidence to say—" "This year, of all years, with the plenarian shower due." He shook his head. "It was Gargorians," her father stated, his cold gaze piercing the gloom. "Begin preparations to move the survivors to Fennica. We will continue there. We are abandoning Rootholm." Men and women began to run in all directions as her father started giving orders. A fire kindled in her heart then, one which quickly grew to match the conflagration in front of her. How dare they? How dare the heathens invade her country, burn her home, and threaten the lives of her family? Her hands, blistered and cut, curled into fists on her lap. They dared too much.